All right. Welcome to the Private Practice Elevation podcast. Kate and Katie from Private Practice Startup. How's it going?
What's up? It's good to be here, Daniel, with you. Yes, it's good to be here. On the flip side, it's always so funny. You started off your show, announcing the show, and I'm like in my mind going, "Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast," and I'm like, "Oh,
Right.
nope,
I did the same. I
this
actually
is
did
not
the
our
same
show."
thing. I did the same thing. I was like, oh, startup, not elevation startup. But well, thanks so much for agreeing to be on this brand spanking new podcast. And before we started, I just really wanted to thank you both because when I first started Create My Therapist website, I believe I was on your podcast. I think it was like the second interview I ever did. And I remember being extremely nervous to talk to you both. I'm not even sure if I went back and listened to it after the fact, but you've both been just really supportive of my work and just always just so generous to share things that I've been doing, and even collaborating on some stuff with your website as well. So I just want to say thank you for that. I want that to be just publicly out there that I appreciate.
Thank you back. I mean, your work speaks for itself. It's really high quality. You're very systematic. It's you know what's coming, what's not. You communicate well, and that's just really important in business. So we appreciate you right back. Yes.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. All right. Well, let's get in first with, for those who don't know you, what is it that you do?
Well, we're Kate and Katie from the Private Practice Startup, and we've been working together with the Private Practice Startup since 2016, in business together since 2014. We both live down here in sunny South Florida and also have our own private practices on the side. I have a group practice called Bayview Therapy. We have a team of 20 clinicians here, and everybody specializes in a different area, and that's something that's really important and something that I really enjoy, being involved with the group practice and helping support and inspire all of them. And then Katie has a private practice herself down here as well.
Yep, in Coral Springs, which is kind of on the other side of our county from Kate. And I specialize in working with couples, specifically fair recovery. And then the private practice startup focuses on working with therapists. Really, we have a product, which is our attorney-approved private practice paperwork. And as we were talking before, we just launched our marketing e-course and coaching program for therapists because we really know that that's where they struggle the most. So that's us in a nutshell. And we have a podcast. Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, I want to really start off with that transition from, you talked about your practices, your successful practices, going from that to what you're doing now with more coaching. Because really what I love to talk to people about, like, how did you go beyond that one-on-one client work to thinking more entrepreneurial, multiple streams of income, doing different things, and not just sticking with, just that office work. So if you could just give a little bit of the backstory of how you got started with Private Practice Startup.
Well, I know for me, in terms of my own journey in private practice and being in the group practice, so many people back in the day were coming to me and saying, hey, how did you create this successful practice? Because when we went to school, we didn't learn anything about business or marketing or entrepreneurship. And I really had to learn a lot of that in my own journey the hard way. So it took me a long time to really understand how to grow a business, scale a business, and the ins and outs of what really works. And I was attracting a lot of clinicians who wanted coaching. And I was really enjoying the coaching work. In addition to seeing clients, I like to have my hands in different areas. It keeps my passion alive and keeps me interested about what I'm doing. And then Katie and I were working together, offering trainings across the state of Florida. And I always had known, after I first started coaching people through my own company, that I wanted to create like a private practice marketing e-course or private practice e-course, and wanted to be able to support clinicians in growing their practices. And so that was something that was kind of organically happening in my own journey on that side of things. And then Katie and I really enjoyed the private practice stuff as well. We're very successful in our separate practices down here, and we launched the Private Practice Startup in 2016. And then we took it a step further because when we first started, we kind of fell into some old traps that we had experienced early on in our private practices of being more generalist. And we were wanting to help people from startup to mastery. That's our tagline. And sort of this very comprehensive way. And that's not the area that we were most passionate about. We were really passionate about marketing and helping clinicians to learn how to brand and market themselves, because that's the area that they really struggled the most in. So Katie and I really had to pivot and get super clear on what is our niche for the private practice startup. And that's when we got really clear on, okay, it's the branding and marketing piece. And that's the area that clinicians are struggling so much with. That's where our passion lies. Let's marry the two together. And that's how we're really going to serve Startup Nation. Anything you want to add?
No, I think you did a great job.
Follow-up question to that. So what were some of those, just signs that you knew that you were just being too general, that you really needed to niche down and focus on what you were passionate about?
So interestingly enough, I know that there's that saying, the riches are in the niches. And I really believe that, because we worked, not that we don't work hard all the time, but we were working so hard and our income really showed that, and we were just spread way too thin, and the feeling of exhaustion. And, as we, I kind of feel like it was this very like serendipitous thing about focusing on marketing. Like we knew how to market, but we didn't know like the tried and true systems and exactly what it was. So we went on this like 3-year-long journey of really understanding everything we could about marketing and still do. So, when you're really focused and streamlined, it's easy to go down that path. Of course, Kate and I are, I want to say perfectionists, but we love quality. So we're always down the rabbit hole of tweaking and making it better and tweaking and making it better. But yeah, those were some of the things, just the overwhelm, the exhaustion, not really hitting a target market. And it was really Kate's idea to launch the podcast in January. Well, you started learning about it in January 2016, and we launched actually our 3-year birthday's coming up next month, June 6th. Yeah, so 3 years. Thanks. And that was a journey in and of itself. But that really allowed us to begin to kind of spread our feelers out and connect with people while we were building our paperwork product and now our e-course.
Awesome. Well, I think that that's a really good segue into what I'd love to talk about, which is mindset and onto the branding piece. Really, as I said before we got on the call, I've been kind of spying, looking at what you're both doing with your new e-course that you just launched, and it just for anybody listening, I know that I think you guys closed enrollment to that, but in the future, I assume you'll launch again, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We will be launching again. Yes, for sure.
So for anybody listening, I just want them to know that this e-course is just phenomenal. And just the content that it seems that you all packed into it, just start to finish, is great. But I really zeroed in on the mindset and branding piece, which to me seems really kind of like the starting point that people, and you tell me, it seems like people skip that step.
Oh my gosh, Daniel, you're so right on. So right on. So here's
I've been doing my homework, so.
Here's a really interesting thing, and this is what Kate and I have been talking about, because, we launched and we're getting feedback. When you launch something new, you're getting feedback from the audience. Yeah. And so what's interesting is a lot of times what we would see is that therapists, and I'm sure many solopreneurs, doesn't matter if you're a CPA or real estate agent or whatever, is we want to jump straight into strategy. And I know that we did that as well. And I think, one of our marketing pieces that went out about the e-course, I think I listed 17 somewhat ridiculous things that I did, right? Like walked up and down the street and hand my card to everybody. I didn't have a target market. I was on an app, just craziness, right? And then, so we kind of went into our private practice that way, and we scaled back. And I did an actual complete branding, like a 5-day workshop course type thing, and really understood branding. And then when I went to business coaching for a year, really got clear on the vision, mission, culture, and how that stuff really drives your decisions in business. And that's the stuff that makes you feel alive, but also stand out and be memorable. And a lot of times, and still today, we're kind of getting that feedback, is that people want to just go straight into the ideal client and marketing messages and give you strategy. Yeah. When people can have success that way, but really to create a true brand that people have an experience with, that's something really special.
Yeah. So how does somebody get started with that process? Because I don't know too much about branding. I'm more on the website side of things, obviously, but I know that there's work to be done, because it's often, to me, with my own business, I've gone through plenty of exercises. I've taken my, my quarterly days off to focus on like, what am I actually doing, with this business? What do I want it to be? So how does a therapist get started with what do they want their practice to look like, feel like? What is the brand for their practice?
Whether you're a solo practitioner, just yourself, or you're in a group practice, you need to spend time creating your brand, because if you don't create your own brand, your clients will create it for you, your team of clinicians at your office will create it for you, and nobody wants that to happen, right? This is your baby, your business is your baby, and you want to make sure that you're growing it and nurturing it, and your brand is going to evolve over time. Your brand is really, it's the essence of who you are and what you do. It's how people perceive you and your business. It's about giving people an experience when they come in contact with you and your business, whether they're looking online and they get on your website, they see your colors, they see your logo, your content makes them feel a certain way. Then they take the step to call your office, and either your receptionist, your office admin, or you answer the phone. It's the experience that they have when they talk to you, when they talk to your team, when they come into your office and they're in your office environment. It's a feeling that they have. It's your follow-up strategy after session, following up with them. And then also it goes beyond clients. It goes with people that you collaborate with, people that you partner with. It's how everyone experiences you and your business.
And we take a step back, and that's where the mindset piece comes in, because what Kate and I really add to our work and really want to, therapists to stand by, because again, we didn't do it this way, is we jumped into the business aspect and became a slave to the business rather than really creating the dream life. And most people, when they get in business, they don't say, I want to work 50, 60 hours a week and be really tired and exhausted and spend less time with my family than I did at a job. There's this perception of really what they want. And so it does start with the mindset, but we start with, and this begins to formulate the brand, right? It's an exploration of yourself, right? So anytime we're in a place, and I know I've been in a place lately and I want to jump to strategy, I see myself do it, right? And I saw my friend post on Facebook, like, anytime I'm in this place myself, it's in the inner work. And so we have therapists do the inner work, right? And the inner work is, what is your 100-year goal? Why did you come into private practice? What do you want for yourself personally, your residents? And we go through this whole kind of goal planning worksheet of what it is that you want for your life, and connecting with, what's the story from your childhood about why you became a therapist. And that begins to get people into this place of really also understanding their why. And I love, so we have this dream practice visualization where Kate takes people through, they're creating their dream practice, and we talk about the why, Simon Sinek. And I hear time and time again, like, when people come out of the visualization, and we actually do it for our supervision courses, they're like, oh my gosh, I totally saw something that I didn't even think. And it's just a really cool experience, because it's like, wow, that's probably just like laying there dormant, like not even aware, like under the sand, and we just uncovered it with ease. And so we take them through that process, right? And that begins the facilitation of their brand, because it's really about infusing their personal and professional selves, and then attracting that ideal client. So it starts a lot with like you said, the mindset and the inner work, where a lot of, interestingly enough, therapists are super primed for mindset, but they resist it in the business, because it's the default of what we all want. It's kind of like, hurry up, I need to get clients. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we want to say, hurry up, slow down, and you'll get clients.
Right. Man, I feel like that just totally resonates with me and my own story. I mean, the same sort of thing, same sort of process I went through as an entrepreneur. I started my business about 3 years ago. And like you said, you want to go straight to strategy. To how do I get traffic to my website? How do I get people interested in what I'm doing? And then also that scarcity piece tends to come in for me personally. That's something that I've learned to walk through. And it's just like, I need to get clients. I need to figure out how to reach more people. And it becomes so about that, then it's less about what am I actually building. Right. So yes, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And it inspires me to take a break too, and do some of this work all over again.
Yeah. And it's so important to focus on the practice piece of what you want your practice to look like. And even more importantly, we all got into business because we all got into private practice as business owners, because likely we want to have the freedom and the flexibility to be able to create our own schedules, see clients when we want, work when we want, travel when we want, take off when we want, be home with our kids, or traveling for this, whatever that lifestyle looks like. That's the reason that we got into business, to become business owners. And so often people become that slave to the business because they don't take the time to think about, okay, what is the lifestyle that I really want to create for myself, and how can I build my business around that so it's really working for me?
And I think the other difficulty is that when you love business, it's like when you have that space, like you want to do more business type things, and when we're speaking to you and your audience, we're speaking to ourselves because, Kate and I go through this process and we just have discussion. It's like, well, where do we want to go right now? We've been working really hard for the last almost a year on this e-course, and it's a lot of effort and stuff like that. And, all the tech stuff, as you know, and all that stuff. And it's like, well, wait a second, we're reminding ourselves that we get to decide how our business goes. So, being a business owner and being in love with what you do, it's this constant like feedback loop of, am I doing what I want to do? Am I serving my clients, or is it more and more and more? Where do I want to be? And just, being in the flow. Yeah. And I think, sometimes, like you said, is we just have to step back. And like that, we're in that space too, right? Just coming out of all of this e-course stuff. It's like, just step back.
Yeah, because you can get really just blinded by, just focus on, especially when it's a project and you're trying to get that project to the finish line. I know I do, but I always kind of have that moment after launching something where there's just kind of this quiet and it's just like, oh crap, what do I do now? And it's so easy to just be like, okay, I'm going to do this now, or I'm going to do this now, and get kind of like, because you try to fill the void of, I need to be doing something, I need to be working harder, longer, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I call that the impending doom. It feels like when you're in the middle of the launch, you're like, looking, waiting.
Yep. I've heard it called the launch Freefall, where you're kind of, you're in the middle, and then you're just like, okay, everything is just kind of running. Emails are going out, and you're just like, okay, I hope this is working, or what do I do now?
It's just free fall. I'm gonna take that. I like that. That's exactly what it feels like.
It's funny because being an online entrepreneur, I think if you're not in the space, is you don't realize that you don't get this immediate feedback, right? Like being on a podcast, I remember when Kate and I started, like you'd make a joke or on a webinar and no one would laugh. And you're like, I hope that was funny. But you're right. Like when you launch something, like, it's working, even though the behaviors of people that they wait till the last 24 hours to buy, like still you're anxious and eager. So it's a very interesting space to be in.
Yeah. Okay. So how does it go? How do you go from really figuring out what do you want your practice to look like? How does that translate into then marketing for a private practice?
Yeah. So one of the things that we walk folks through, we talk a lot about branding and mistakes and things like that, but we take people through a brand values exercise. So this is where they really identify from a huge list their 3 core values. And then we help them craft their vision statement, which is really from all of that goal stuff and planning stuff and their why. And then we help them identify their mission, right? So either people are really clear on their ideal client or they're in that space of really getting clear. And so we help them get clear on the ideal clients and their services, right? Mm-hmm. So taking the brand aspect, the vision, the mission. Kate and I talk about company culture. We don't, even though we'd like to spend a lot more time there, that's not something we talk about so much, but that stuff becomes the guiding principles then for your business, right? Then it becomes really clear on what the next step is. So Kate and I talk a lot about marketing strategies that really highlight your strengths, right? Obviously, we could do paid stuff and that's kind of easy. But, if you hate writing, we're not going to suggest you write, even though so many things, and that's the noise out there, right? It's like, oh, you have to blog, you have to social media, you have to do that. No, you have to video, you have to. You don't, right? And people are always amazed that I don't have Instagram. I've never had an Instagram account. Why? Because I can only manage Facebook and I don't do it that well. People have said I've connected with you on LinkedIn. I don't remember last time I opened LinkedIn. Like truth.
Yep.
But stuff is working.
Right. What we do is we really take people through that mindset piece in the beginning, the branding piece. Then we get super clear on the ideal clients, and all of that information is what informs the marketing messages and being able to help people craft marketing messages that connect with their ideal clients, that inspire them, that compel them to want to work with the person's particular niche and the area that they serve. And once we have the marketing messages piece, then we're able to use that to inform all marketing strategy. And we help people to get clear on what the marketing strategies are that are aligned with their natural talents and strengths. So it's not something that feels super inauthentic or forced or horribly anxiety provoking or anything like that. Of course, it's good to step outside of your comfort zone so you can grow and continue to evolve. But if you hate doing video and you're horrible at it, it's going to be a horrible marketing strategy for you, because you're going to come across inauthentic and weird and I mean, it's just not going to be attractive.
Now on the flip side, I will say, like, try things, if you want to do that, then try it out. I would never say that. I know we talk about Kate's evolution of video. I like being on video. It's like play for me, right? But Kate's evolution was
I like funny. It now.
She does.
Like, I'm great at it now thousands and thousands of times. But in the beginning, I was very robotic and inauthentic and terrified and filled with anxiety, and I couldn't think and I couldn't get my words out, and I was like, what am I doing right now? What is my name again? Who am I?
She would have, this was like we did a paperwork video and we had like a prop, like a stack of paperwork or whatever, and she would pick it up and she'd be like, and then she'd put it back down. And show it, put it back down, and then cross her arms.
Like,
very professional.
No change of affect, just a smile on my face.
I am a robot.
Yeah. And the person who was doing the video, they were like smile, like giving the smile. I'm like, up, like, come on. And I think she's so anxious she doesn't remember.
Yeah. It can be really anxiety provoking. I'm kind of in that place right now where I'm learning to do video. I enjoy it, but I am still quite awkward. I will admit I'm pretty awkward on my Facebook Lives, but I enjoy that. It just gives me like a really personal way that I can connect with my audience. So, and I can see the benefits. So it's one of those things that I don't feel drained by. I'm just awkward. So I do it. If I was feeling drained by it, then maybe I would stop doing video. Like kind of you suggest, like we shouldn't be so focused on the things that we just hear people say, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. If it's not really serving us, not really serving our life. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, like for extroverted people, they might love to go out and be on video or to do Facebook Lives, or to go to a big, large networking event and make tons of connections. If you're more of an introverted person like myself, that stuff is exhausting and really takes a lot out of me. So I try to really focus on more one-on-one type connections with people. And I found that to be really helpful of getting together, nurturing the relationship, making those genuine connections. And that's really where
having good food,
I shine. Yeah. Having good food. That's important. Definitely. That's really, what's your personality and what are your natural ways of connecting with people and making those relationships so that you can really nurture that over time. Yeah. It's important to have both the online strategy and the offline community strategy as well.
Right. Well, I noticed in some of your content that you talk about how therapists are just poised to be like the best marketers. So I wanted to hear more about that. So why do you believe that therapists make the best marketers?
Therapists have one of the most amazing skills. That is one of the most important skills in marketing. Can you guys guess what it might be? Empathy. We are amazing at empathizing with people and being able to connect with them, to feel what they are going through. We step inside their shoes all the time in the therapy room. So that skill of being able to have empathy for people is the number one important marketing skill. And then we have a ton of other skills as clinicians of being able to translate that into marketing as well.
Yeah, one of the things that we really love is, and I would notice this with my supervisees, right? Like when they would complain about like the agency or the system of the agency or their boss, and I'm like, but you have skills, they actually work outside the therapy room. And they'd be like, I never thought about that. And that's what we teach therapists is like therapists have such amazing skills working with their clients that, active listening, right? Understanding clients' pain points. I mean, we ask, what brings you in today, right? Like we get the list of complaints and the pain. We help them create goals, right? Their dreams, their wishes, their desires. Like Kate said, the empathy and saying back client language. Marketing is always... marketing is really not a mystery. It's actually just listening to what people say and then just giving it back to them. Like it's kind of like therapy when you ask really good questions and your clients feel like, oh my God, that was so amazing. And then they pay you and you're like, I just asked right? But it's a skill. And so what we help therapists do is realize that they have the skills already to be great marketers. A lot of times, and I know Kate and I went through this and I just recently saw this. I just did a quick website review for someone, is a lot of times we feel like we have to talk about ourselves. We have to prove ourselves. We talk about our our credentials, or we talk about our airy fairy butterfly philosophy. No one cares, right? Because people just can't see themselves in what you're talking about. But when we just step back into knowing the skills that we have and then how to apply them in a different context, it's just like, oh, it is kind of easier than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I do see that a lot because I look at a lot of websites, obviously, and I work with a lot of content that people are writing for their own websites. And I'm kind of like, well, where is the empathy? Like, where's the part about, how they're feeling right now? Like thinking about, and I think people just don't spend the time to think through, how does your potential client feel when they are landing on your website? Especially if they're in a state of, whether that's like trauma, just like high anxiety, they really don't care about your credentials. Like they want to connect with somebody, and how can you connect with them with the content that you put on your website?
And that's where branding and marketing come together so beautifully, because how you make people feel when they come to your website, that's your brand, right? And you want to make sure that you're making them feel the way that you want them to feel, the way that they're wanting to feel, that they feel a sense of, if they're, high anxiety, they feel a sense of relief or calm. It's not clutter and chaos with a million different colors and all this stuff. And when it comes to the marketing piece, the marketing messages are going to be ones that really resonate with your ideal clients, that really connect with them, that make them think, oh my gosh, it's like they're thinking what I'm thinking. They know what I'm thinking. They know what I'm feeling.
Right.
This person really gets me. They must be able to help me.
Right. So does branding start with the ideal client in mind, or with the type of business you want to create? Where does it really start with?
That's a great question, Daniel.
It just popped into my head. I'm learning for myself here.
So, we don't hold ourselves out as like branding experts, and this is what we do, right? We know a lot about branding, and I'm just kind of like thinking back to my own branding experience. And I think it relates to a lot, right? Because you do need to get into the mind of your ideal client, right? So it's a merriment of both. Because too, if you can't have a brand that you personally don't feel aligned with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, there's the work that you do, and then you bring that work into working with your ideal clients, right? Understanding their fears, their worries, the trends, what it is that they need, want, desire. Again, that's all that ideal client work, and then seeing how that fits in. And I haven't really seen it where it's disjointed, right? Because look, if you love children and you're a play therapist, you know children, and so you probably want to bring those lively colors or whatever's happening. You're not gonna, it's not gonna be this, calm, drab, whatever. You know what I mean? Like it just.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's not disjointed. It's the holistic approach to who you are and really how you want to represent your practice, while also connecting with the clients that you're trying to attract.
And a lot of times our ideal clients will change, and they'll shift and evolve over time. As we gain more experience, we gain more specialization, more training, we step outside into new areas of expertise. And when that happens, then our brand is going to shift and evolve simultaneously too. So none of this is static. It's all ever changing and growing. Your brand is like, your business is like your baby. It's going to be something that you nurture and evolve and grows over time. Same with your ideal clients. They will shift and evolve and grow over time. It's very fluid.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my favorite things about websites, is that you can always change them very quickly.
Well, for you, very quickly.
Well, you can hire somebody very quickly.
There you go. There you go. Your website.
Daniel can help you do it very
Yes, he can.
Absolutely. All right. So I think just a couple more questions about marketing, and really like thinking about like the beginning of marketing. Someone's really like learning to get started with marketing. And I see a lot of, just like in Facebook groups and just what I hear from my own audience, they don't know how to speak about themselves. They don't know how to speak with empathy. Like, can you give us some tips to get started? I know you mentioned like active listening. How does that practically translate into like, I need to write content for my homepage?
Well, one of the things really is just to listen to what your ideal clients are saying when they call you, so a lot of times people have forms or trackers or whatever. So what is the list of the pain points? What is the list of the common things? It's like, again, that's why I feel like marketing is so easy. It's like, if a couple is calling, number one thing, what are they going to say? we have trouble communicating. Like, I don't think I've ever got a call from a couple that wasn't like, oh, our communication's amazing. Can we come in? No.
Right.
And so being able to understand what it is that they say about communication. Oh, we're fighting all the time. We sleep in separate bedrooms, like whatever that is. Right.
Yeah.
So just really listening to that, or it's starting to take notice. When I have an inspired idea in session, I actually have a legal pad like in the coffee table or whatever. And so I'll be listening to that. Sometimes it's not related to marketing, but like, I'll be like, yeah. And so I look at them and I take the pad out and I just jot down a note. So, people can listen to their clients in session and what they talk about, both from the pain point aspect, but also their hopes and dreams, for that couple that's not communicating, how would they like life to be instead? And that's a common question that we ask as therapists, and so it's just then being aware of what you're asking. So kind of like seeing yourself in the therapy room and then taking note of what folks are saying.
Yes. Your clients will give you everything that you need to market perfectly to them. It's just a matter of listening and really picking up on those words and phrases on the initial phone call, on the intake form, during your session, picking up on all of that and using that to inform the content that you're creating on your website so that it really speaks to who you want to attract.
Right. Absolutely. That's really good. That's encouraging, I think, for a lot of people, like that it's a process and it's not a mystery. Like if you're actively listening and you're paying attention to the signs and just kind of, I think, giving yourself grace to learn this marketing stuff, you pick it up as you go along, and you can constantly make changes, constantly learn, and keep, like you said, learning about your ideal clients and even changing that in the future.
Right. So many people are intimidated by marketing. It feels pushy or sleazy or manipulative or imposing, all of those icky words that we hear people describe it. And we really like to reframe marketing. We see it as a conversation. It's all about connecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it.
Yeah. You stole my last question right there.
What was the question? It's like Jeopardy.
It was about, I think a lot of people are anxious with marketing. So how do we reframe the conversation around marketing? Like, what is marketing really meant to be? And you just answered that.
We're so on the same page.
It's a connection. I know. This is going to be a quick episode because we're just so on the same page here.
Well, Dana, you're a great copywriter. I read your stuff sometimes.
Oh, thank you.
You write copy very well. But I mean, even for you, like, as a web designer, if we ask, like, what is one of the greatest pain points or common complaints that your clients have, you could say, what is it?
There's a lot.
yeah. But that's just it, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably like the questions that we ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
I know. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that, because copywriting does not come natural to me. It's something that's really taken me a lot of time and a lot of, just reading books and watching what other people are doing and really picking out, just coming back to that place of my ideal client. Same thing for any therapist or any business. It's really coming back to putting them first. They are, if you're familiar with StoryBrand and Donald Miller, like they're the hero of the story. Let's focus on them. Where are they at right now? What's the pain they're in? What can life look like? How do we bridge the gap and give them the steps to get started?
Yep.
We're
big StoryBrand fans. We actually took Donald Miller's e-course, and that's informed some of our work as well. So
yeah, I pretty much mentioned it in like every podcast so far.
That's awesome. You have like the StoryBrand cowbell, like we have our authenticity cowbell, because that word comes up every single podcast.
That's great. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to share? I mean, I know it's a very general question. Anything else? Like, let's say this. What are the biggest mistakes that you see people making with marketing for private practices? We'll end on that.
That could be a long list.
Oh my goodness. I would say
choose one.
Being a generalist, speaking to the masses and end up attracting nobody, or having an unclear message, not being clear in their marketing.
And jumping straight into strategy. I mean, I remember, when Facebook ads came out and I was like, great, $20, didn't work. Why didn't it work? Screw Facebook ads. They don't work, right? It's like, well, it doesn't work that way. And people also don't know like what strategies, because I'll hear people say, well, I have to do social media, but why? Right? Social media is a lot for brand awareness, unless you have like online stuff, driving traffic to your website for an opt-in, and then you can nurture the relationship. Most therapists aren't doing that, so we really kind of talk about all those different things. Yeah. And it's not like the unwillingness to step back first to get clear. I think that's a huge mistake, and then move forward. So yeah, I'm sure there's tons more.
There's a million more. Yeah. We could have a whole episode just on that.
And
Well,
talking about yourself in
100%.
degrees and your psychobabble, big mistake.
Oh yeah, that's a big
Like,
one too.
I don't care about your CBT and your ABC and your EMDR or EFT. Well, I do, but most clients don't, right? And
Right.
so,
Right. Awesome. Well, one thing I always like to ask my guests is, what is one book that you have read recently that has impacted you?
ooh, one book.
Ooh.
One book. I
One book.
just finished a 10-week Think and Grow Rich, and it's kind of has me in this tailspin of looking.
It
And
does.
Kate knows.
Tailspin.
Kate, it's thrown me in
She
a
is
3-week
spinning.
tailspin of like really asking myself, am I living my life on purpose and all this stuff. So, I don't always like being in this place, but I know it's like purposeful, right? It's kind of like the pressure cooker, right? And I know I'm going to come back out better on the other side. But reading the book was designed to be read in a mastermind. I don't know if your folks know that or people know that, but it's helpful. It was I've read it before, but going through it again.
I have not read that one, but it is on my list.
I went on a mission for the past 3 years to listen to as many podcasts, do as many online courses, as many books, and on this huge journey of, really honing in and soaking up as much as I could about marketing. So I've really kind of taken a step back over the past, I'd say like 9 months or so, from reading and from consuming all that content. It just gets to be too much information overload.
But you do love some Brene Brown.
Yes, I love Brene Brown, of course. All of her stuff is amazing. Donald Miller's book, Story Brand, is such a good one. I think the last book that I read start to finish was Objections by Jeb Blunt. That was a really good one too. And then
You said one, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
These are all good. These are all good. Did you see Brene Brown's Netflix special?
I did.
I watched it twice, 2 weekends ago.
So good. So good.
And that she's like a perfect marketer, right? She storytells. Like that's what also captures people.
She's so good at storytelling.
Yeah, and that's what just captures people. Boop.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I believe this is my 4th interview. So I just appreciate you being here. And where can people find you online?
They can find us at theprivatepracticestartup.com.
Privatepracticestartup.com.
I said
the. No, the in front of it.
Privatepracticestartup.com.
Yes.
Awesome.
Find us there, or you can request to join us in our Facebook group. There you can search the Private Practice Startup Facebook group, and you can find us there. The website is without the D, though.
Okay, we'll put everything in the show notes. We'll put it all in the show notes, and everybody will be able to find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us on. It's been so fun to be on the flip side. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right. We'll see you later.